This is Gen X Amplified episode number 32, and today we are going to go all in on how to become a social media power user. That's right, because we actually have a true social media expert on the show. So, are you ready? Let's do it.
And I always tell people, if it's your favorite, like if you really love using it, see if it will work with your business. But the thing that you don't want to do is spend too much time on social that's chatting and not really adding to your bottom line.
Welcome to Gen X Amplified, where we bring you inspirational and entertaining conversations with successful Gen X leaders and entrepreneurs.
This is the show created just for you. The powerful generation between the boomers and millennials to help you amplify your story,
Maximize your impact,
and become Gen Exceptional in business and in life.
Now, here's your host, Adrian Porter.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Amplified, the personal development and leadership podcast for Gen Xers. You know, those often overlooked yet very powerful and influential generation between the boomers and those millennials. First, I want to say thank you so much for listening in and for your download. I really do appreciate it because we have so many things to do. So you are taking the time to listen to me and my wonderful guest today. So I really, really, really appreciate it. So let's get right into it. My featured guest today is an author, blogger, speaker, and social media expert. In fact, she has literally been called a social media goddess. She actually—
Who called me that? I set them $5.
I know, right? She actually has over 1 million followers on her own social media platforms, and she manages over 13 million followers pretty much every day. Now, as I mentioned, she's a popular speaker presenting at conferences like Social Media Marketing World, South by Southwest, Inbound, Blog Her, and others. Now, as an author, one of her most recent achievements is the groundbreaking book titled The Art of Social Media: Power Tips for Power Users that she co-wrote with marketing guru Guy Kawasaki. So without further ado, everyone, please welcome my exceptional guest, the one and only Peg Fitzpatrick. Peg, how are you?
Wow, that was awesome. I feel like I need a little applause reel. Yay! What a great intro. Thank you so much.
No, Peg, thank you for being on the show. Welcome to Gen X Amplified. Even though by all accounts you are probably a millennial.
No, I'm probably not. But if I take the little quizzes, I come out as a millennial, which I think it's due to my social media usage. No,
it is.
But no, I'm not a millennial.
That's quite all right. That is quite all right. That's the purpose of the show. We want to amplify the power of any Gen Xers or boomers or whomever, because it's all in your mindset. But first, before we move on, Peg, I want to congratulate you on being named in Huffington Post recently as one of the 16 best people to follow on Twitter. Thank you. Awesome.
I think I've probably put the most time into Twitter, even though I've been on Facebook the longest. Like everybody has been on Facebook the longest because it was there first.
Right.
But Twitter, Twitter takes a lot of work to build it up, and I really love Twitter. Even though I go around and I use a lot of different platforms now. Mm-hmm. Twitter has always, stayed true, because I think even though there's a lot more people on there and it's harder to get seen, I still think it's a great way to connect directly with people.
No, it is. I'm a huge fan of Twitter. And actually, I believe Twitter just celebrated its birthday.
Yeah, they did. Was it 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years. 10 years.
Yeah.
That's a huge milestone. There's been a lot of changes, obviously, a lot of evolution, and we're going to get into that. But yeah, to your point, Twitter has changed a lot, and there's a lot more noise in the social media landscape. So, but you're the right person to have on GXA to talk about that. Now, Peg, you wear so many hats. You do a lot of stuff. As I mentioned earlier, you have over 1 million followers on your own accounts. You also get your hands dirty and manage almost, 5 or 10 million, no, 13 million followers on other accounts. A lot.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through, I would love for you to briefly walk us through your own personal journey and how you started on this path, Peg, of becoming the social media goddess, author, and speaker. Can you do that for us and unpack that for us?
Sure. I have a different story than most people because I actually started in day one with a job in social media.
Okay.
Most people work at it for a long time and then they try to get hired by someone, which is, that would be the usual path. But I actually was hired by a company, and it's my husband's company. It's an international company, and he manages the U.S.
Okay.
And I was at a dinner with his bosses when they were over from Europe in the north end or the south end, north end of Boston, in the Italian section. And we were having this amazing meal. And I was at a different job that I did not enjoy, and I was just throwing out ideas because I'm always coming up with a lot of ideas. And I was like, there's this new thing called Facebook, and I think it would be awesome for companies to get on there and you could talk to people, because it wasn't popular for companies at that time. It wasn't, brands weren't on. So I was just thinking it would be awesome, to try it for a company. And then 6 months later, they contacted my husband. They were like, hey, we'd like to hire your wife to do all the marketing. And I was like, wait, what did I say? It was so long ago, and I was just throwing ideas. It was not a formal pitch. It wasn't like I had created a plan, any of those things. So, and I had a product launch right off the bat.
Now, what? I'm sorry. What year was this?
Ooh, what year was this? This was 6 years ago.
Oh, wow. Because you mentioned that Facebook had just kind of started, especially with brands.
Well, Facebook was out there for individuals. We were all using it.
Right.
But using it as an individual and using it as a brand are two very different things.
Yes, it is.
And that's one of the big things that brands make a mistake with, is they hire millennials, which is a good thing because everybody needs jobs. But they hire millennials thinking that they're digital natives and that they'll know everything about how to manage Facebook. And it's not the same at all on the back end of Facebook. You could have someone who is amazing on their own personal accounts. That doesn't mean anything in the back end of Facebook. Facebook is honestly so complicated now in the back end with the ads and the, all the things that they have back there. It's great because they're giving tons of tools, but it's every time you go in the back end, it's more complicated. So it's very serious marketing and technology in the back. It's not, anyone can manage Facebook. It's not like that anymore at all.
Right.
I mean, honestly, back in the day when I started, you could make iframe pages and you could get custom design things. It was before Facebook shut that down. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I remember that.
Yeah, you could go onto Facebook and you would have this whole different thing that really looked like a website. But Facebook was like, no, we want it to look like Facebook. So they cut that out. And so going back to the start of my little journey. So I started and I started with a product launch. So I immediately just jumped in. I do have a traditional marketing background. So I had done things with print advertisement, email marketing, other things, but not social media marketing. And honestly, at the time, it's not like you could take classes or learn how to do it so much. There weren't too many people out there that were teaching people how to do it.
Right.
Mari Smith and Amy Porterfield were about the only ones that were out there that I remember. And I took one of Mari's classes actually first to learn how to use the back end of Facebook. And things have just evolved and changed from there. So I started out, doing Facebook and email marketing and traditional, and I still do those things. And I do the traditional marketing as well. And then I just, thought, well, maybe Twitter looks kind of interesting. I wonder if brands can do anything on Twitter. So I opened up my own personal Twitter account because I always test every single thing I do. I test on my own accounts, which is why my own accounts have built up as my clients have, because I'm not going to test things on a client. I test them on myself, which I think is the opposite of what most people do, because in agencies, there's tons of people who work for brands. And then when you look at their accounts, they have nothing. They have no followers. They barely have anything. And I'm like, how are these people learning how to do things? Are they testing on their clients? Are they using other people's theory? Like, I test them all myself. Like, oh, images on Twitter look interesting. I'm going to try playing with that. So yeah, so that's kind of how my accounts have built up too, because like I said, I test everything. And so then I started finding books on social media, and I started a book club. I decided to start a book club because one of the things I found was that lots of people that were on Twitter were love to read. Like, for some reason, like, early adapters in technology are also people who like to learn through books. So I think it's like, in my opinion, it's like people who just want to learn all the time, which is me. And then they want to read or, learn on Twitter or do things that seem to go together. So I started a book club. I decided to start a book club because Twitter chats were just becoming popular. There was quite a few of them, not the deluge that there is now, but there was a lot. So I started a book club Twitter chat, and my first book that I decided to read was Enchantment by Guy Kawasaki.
Oh, yes.
So I tweeted it and I said, I'm going to have my book club. It's going to be, this night at this time, I'm going to read #Enchantment by Guy Kawasaki. And this was in like 2011. And then I came back to my computer like a half hour later, and Guy had tweeted me. And I was like, oh my God. And Twitter was his main thing back then.
Oh, yes.
So he was on Twitter more. And he said, I'd love to come to your book club. And I was like, oh my God, you can talk to authors on social media. This is awesome. So Guy was my first guest on my first book club. And we trended on Twitter above the Tony Awards.
That is okay. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Above the Tony Awards.
Above the Tony Awards. Of course, now all the award shows are really super organized and they really kick it out. So I love that. But back then, some people were tweeting about the Tonys, but not everybody. They, on TV now, they'll list all the the official hashtag to try to get people all in the same group. But back then, there could have been a whole bunch of different hashtags and things. So that was how I met Guy on Twitter, that's one of the big questions people ask me all the time. How did you meet him? And it's on Twitter, and people think that's funny, but it's, we're both on social media all the time. So it's actually makes a lot of sense, right?
Right. No, I'm sitting here like literally like I'm listening to this story, and you talk about you could literally write a Disney book or a story. I mean, the arc of this is amazing. I mean, you just from the beginning to end, and you started off working for working with your husband's company. And are you still with the company at this point?
Yeah, I still do. Yep.
Is that how you pronounce it? Chrysler?
It's Chrysler. I'm really bad at it. It's German. It's German. It's the German version of Chrysler. Like the vehicle, but it's a German chemical company.
Yeah, that second syllable is getting me when I'm trying to do
it. It's like an oi in the middle. There's like Chrysler.
All right, so you started with Chrysler. I just screwed that up. So if you're listening, my apologies. But no, so you started working with them and literally got drafted by them. Sounds like, and just based on your experience and what you've done. And you've been with them to this day. At the same time, you've built up your own audience, your own following. You've tested on your own platforms,
which I highly recommend. Come on, don't make your clients guinea pigs, right?
Right, and which I love because you're putting the client first. I mean, at least just getting out all the kinks and testing and doing the A/B splits and all that. So you tested. You're highly active. Then you had this great idea, this epiphany to start a book club because you're an avid reader. As you mentioned yourself, you love learning all the time. And you knew that the environment in the Twitter sphere are readers and love to learn as well. You started this book club. You start the book club, the Twitter chat, and you happen to pick Enchantment, which is actually one of my favorite books also.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great book.
And then by that book, by the author, happens to... And that is the wonders of Twitter in itself. Like the story you're telling about your experience on Twitter is a great Twitter story. And Guy, the author, happens to see the trend and see the tweet and involves himself. And now you're working directly with him, which we're going to get into with this great novel of excellence that you guys wrote. You start working with him. You can't get a better story than that. And it all started and was rooted in not just you seeking out opportunities, but it was rooted in your passion, and it was rooted in something that you knew how to do. It was rooted in something that you demonstrated a certain level of skill and expertise, and it's worked wonders for you. So I love that story, and I'm sure that's great inspiration for my listeners.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned is important to me. Like, I never asked people for things, and I actually don't like when people do it for me. Like, the more followers you get, people ask you for a lot of stuff. Like, they're just really like, can you share this? Can you do this? And they're never reciprocal. They're, I get a lot of emails from people saying, oh, I wrote this blog post. You share things about social media. Would you, I'm sure it would be great for your followers if you shared this. I'm like,
right.
No, that's like, I don't respond to any of those pitch emails because they're crummy. They're not even pitches. It's like, if you're a blogger, I feel like you should build your own social network, and you should not ask things like that of people that you don't even know.
Right.
That's one of the keys is, now in 2016, influencer marketing is like a thing. And I really hate it because I like the fact that brands want to work with influencers to pay them as brand ambassadors. That is awesome. But the kind of influencer marketing where people are just trying to suck up to people to get them to do something for them, I don't think that's going to work. And if you read Enchantment, which you did, like it's like an attraction kind of world, right? You want to attract great people to you. You don't want to exhaust people by asking them for things all the time.
No, I tell you, it's a stickler for me on Twitter. And I'm going to vent just like a few seconds. When I follow someone or they follow me and I follow them back, the immediate direct message tweet I get asking for me to go to their LinkedIn or download their ebook, I swear it takes 5 seconds for me not to just unfollow them back.
I do unfollow them.
I can't stand a lot of times I do, but I can't stand the automated DMs.
I can't either. As a special gift for following me, I want you to read my ebook. No. Or please, since we've connected here, please come to, all those. They're horrible.
Yeah, they're horrible.
They are not helping. I mean, when I was brand new on Twitter, which is so long ago, I actually used to, you know how exciting it is when you're brand new and somebody follows you? You are legitimately excited.
Right.
So I used to send people personal messages, not DMs. And I would be like, thank you for following me, blah, blah, blah. And people would get mad and they would send me things saying, I can't believe that you, and I was like, I didn't even know what an auto DM was. I didn't even know you could do it because I was new. Right. So I stopped doing it just because it made people angry, but I really was typing individual notes to people.
Yeah, those automated DMs are huge. We're speaking of DMs.
If doing it, people, and you're listening right now, please go and disconnect them because more people are unfollowing you and they dislike you immediately, no matter what your message says.
You just took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, for those listening in to Gen X Amplified that do that, stop it and don't not follow.
It's the worst form of automation.
It is horrible.
I'm all for social media automation that helps you save time and optimizes your content when it's being sent out, but auto messages. And another one is the Rebel Mouse, which I used to kind of think that it was a cool service, but now the tweets are so annoying.
Yes, I stopped. I admit, I had a Rebel Mouse account back in the day.
Mine is still set up. I don't have anything automated.
Yeah, I haven't done anything in a while, and I got on it because I'm a huge Gary Vee fan, and he was a huge Rebel Mouse proponent, and so I set it up, and I thought it was a great interface. So I thought it was great, but I haven't been as active on it. But speaking of social media, I do want to get into. It does
have some good features. I don't mean to totally dog on it. No. You can set up a really cool page that shows like all your different social media things pulled in, which is really cool.
Right.
But the auto messages from it, like I saved that tweet on my page. Like those things, it fills up your Twitter feed.
Wow.
So, like, you can't see real tweets from people because you're getting so many of these automated things.
That's true. So we're spending a lot of time on social, which we should, because you are the social media goddess. And I want to get into that book. So and let me take a quick step back because I failed to mention that I first met you in person at Social Media Marketing World last year, which was awesome conference.
It is a great conference.
But I actually went up to you because I knew who you were, because I used to see you all the time with your partner in crime on Google Plus. And on videos.
Are you talking about Rebecca?
Okay, yeah. Rebecca, is it right? Rita Reese. I used to see you and Rebecca. You guys are like the Tina Fey and Amy Poehler of visual social media.
I love Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. I just watched Sisters last night.
No, it's true. You guys are like Tina and Amy of visual social media. But I used to see you and Rebecca all the time as partners in crime, dropping mad value on social Pinterest. And so when I saw you, and it happened when I saw you at the conference, you guys were together. together on the ship, which was a great networking event. I loved your vibe, and I loved you guys, and so I just wanted to quickly say that that's how I met you, through social, and I knew that you were very very highly passionate for visual. But speaking of social media, so this book, The Art of Social Media, what prompted you to write this book with Guy?
Okay, so I came up with the idea because I get asked a lot of the questions that you're asking me, like how do I do everything that I do on social media?
Right.
And you can't answer that in a tweet, and I can't answer all the emails that I get because I wouldn't have any time to do work. People are like, can you mentor me? Can you help me set up this? And, I don't do like consulting and take clients because I just don't, my schedule is full. So I thought I could write a book that would explain a lot of things, like how I do things, and that it would help people. So I came up with the idea, and my original idea was the art and science of social media.
Okay.
Because I wanted to do some of the art, which is like the creativity and the writing.
Right.
And then the science would be like the metrics and the measurement. And so I pitched it to Guy, and he was like, that's an awesome idea. Sure. Totally on board. So I was like, yay. So I was working on it. And then like a couple weeks later, he was like, you know what? I don't really want to write a book about social media. He's like, there's already a ton. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay, fine. So I'm like, well, I'm going to keep writing it by myself because I really love the idea. And I was already like well into it. I used Guy's book that he wrote with Sean Welch, Ape.
Oh, yeah. Author, publisher, entrepreneur. Yeah,
right.
Love it.
Yeah, I helped do the marketing for that. So
cool.
That was one of the first things I did, was worked on the marketing for that.
Cool.
So I've obviously read the book a lot. There's a template that comes with that book, which is a WordPress template it actually has all the formatting for a book. And when you take that, instead of just typing something into a Word document, it's 100% different, like you are writing a book, because it's all formatted. It's like a total mindset. It's like crazy. If you have any interest in writing anything, like using that template, it's so awesome. And I didn't create it, and it's really cool. So I took the template, I did the outline, like I followed all the steps. Like obviously, I had a great lesson because I've worked with Guy on a couple of his books, and not writing them, but working on them. So I've seen his process. One of the first things I did was actually he sent me an email and asked a question about What the Plus, which was his book on Google Plus. And I actually helped him work on that. So then he was like, well, do you want to read it while I'm working on it and make suggestions? And I was like, yes, I do. So then I saw his whole writing process. Like every day I would just get updates on my computer, in my Dropbox of his book. Because he's super open. Guy is so open. When he's writing, he's like, he'll let anybody read it. He likes to get suggestions. He's got a very open thought process, which is cool. A lot of people have the opposite. Like, if I'm working on this, I don't want anybody to see it.
Right.
People are going to steal my ideas. He's super open. So I kept working myself on the book. And then when I got to a certain point, when I was like, I had the whole like first draft of it laid out. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to send it to Guy to see what he thinks, to read it, which is a scary thing because, he'll be 100% honest. He's not going to be like, this is really good. If he thinks it sucks, or, if he thinks, you need to do a lot more work on it, he would be 100% straight up and say that, which is definitely the kind of person that you want to read it. But it's also scary,
Right.
because like I said, Enchantment's like one of my favorite books. So it's like sending your first project to your favorite author is a little scary, right?
Right.
So I did it anyway. So he read it and he loved it. He was like, this is amazing. He's like, okay, well, it needs a lot of work. So I will work on it with you. And then we started working on it together. So I actually changed his mind by writing something awesome, which is yay me. So then we worked on it together, and then we just went through like a really tight process of editing and changing, and everything that's in the book, we 100% tested. Like we tested it, we tried it. If we didn't like it, we didn't include it. And then, Guy put a lot of his style in it, and so our styles work together. And that's basically how we did it. We worked on it all. I did all the research for the book. I tested all the things, put all the links in. And I think it turned out really well. I'm really proud of it.
No, it did. I mean, I as soon as it came out, I'm a huge fan of. I mean, there, like you said, and like Guy said initially, there are many books out on the shelves about social media, but that one was literally like it was so how to. And a lot, and especially for this audience, and people are looking, especially the people that are kind of in the mid-career or people that are starting with social media and they're overwhelmed and they're trying to figure out how, okay, this all sounds good in theory, but how do I make it happen? What do I need to do? And what are some of the best practices and success stories? And you guys really laid it out, you and Guy, you two laid it out so well and focus a lot on what was happening at the time. And true, social media is always evolving, it's always changing. And I'm sure there are some things, there probably should be a new edition of that book every year. Or twice a year.
We have I don't think anything about Snapchat and only a little bit about Instagram.
Exactly. And I'm sure Google Plus is totally different now. And
Google Plus is almost non-existent.
I know. I was careful to say that because I know you were a huge Google Plus champion. And I'm curious your thoughts, and it's kind of sad to see, but it's weird. Like I have the book What the Plus by Guy, and I got the book from Brogan, his Google Plus book that he initially sent out. I was so, and that's how I first saw you. And now it's totally.
Well, now I was behind the scenes on that book. The what I actually did for that book was all the research for What the Plus. I actually read all of Google Plus Help. Literally, because I put every single link in that book.
Oh wow, that is amazing.
So that was kind of how I knew a lot about Google Plus. I put every single link in every single chapter. I was like, wow.
But the book, and I encourage everyone listening to get the book. It is so great, and I'm curious, what are some of your favorite social platforms right now? I know you mentioned Twitter at the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah, I think. Well, I love Pinterest a lot. We haven't mentioned Pinterest at all, but I love Pinterest, and I love Instagram too. Yes. But I still I'm on all of them. And part of the thing is people. It always gets hard for people. They're like, I can't be everywhere, which you don't have to be. Right. But it is my job to be on and to know all the back end of things. Right. And I am different in the sense that I do all the social platforms. I never picked one.
Okay.
So a lot of people just pick one, like Sue Zimmerman does only Instagram. I do all of them, which is a bigger challenge. And sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I should have a super tight niche. But I think I've managed to, I get to expert level in all of them, which is more of a challenge, but I think it works for me. It gives me the opportunity to speak on a whole bunch of different topics. Right. Last year, I spoke at Social Media Marketing World about Pinterest, and this year I'm speaking about Instagram.
And which makes sense because Instagram is the jam right now.
Pinterest is still good though. I mean, Instagram is awesome. Instagram's going through changes because they just changed their algorithm. Right. I love actually that they've tied Facebook advertising and Instagram advertising together because as I mentioned, Facebook is complicated. So if you learn that one, it automatically connects with all your Instagram stuff.
That is true. And a lot of times when I do like my own one-on-one coaching and consulting on new media, and I work a lot with people, in my generation, which is, mid-career leaders. And I want to get your advice on this as well. Is that you hear a lot of, okay, I hear I need to be on, this is from other individuals. I hear I need to be on social whether or not I'm starting my own business on the side or full time, or I want to build my brand. And everybody says I need to be on Twitter, on Facebook, on Snapchat, on Anchor, on this, on that. And I always advise people that you need to think about first your goals. What do you want to achieve? Who are you trying to reach? And then reverse engineer into the right platform. Now for you, Peg, obviously, like you said, it's your role, it's your job to be astute on so many, but what advice would you give to someone in that mid 30 to mid 50 range that's kind of overwhelmed and looking to really make a stake in social media, but can't figure out what to do?
I actually say the same thing you do. I tell people, number one, to figure out what their goals are and who their ideal client is going to be. If they're like a brand that they're gonna, have a client base for, right? Then, or if they're just building a personal brand. So it's always hard because there's different ways to do it. So if you're somebody who's going to build a personal brand and say be an author or sell a product or something, then who is your ideal client going to be? What is their age range? Then figure out what social media platforms they are on. Or if you're a personal brand and you want to build your personal brand, then again, you would figure out what ones fit best with your business model.
Right.
So, I mean, for a lot of people, they totally overlook LinkedIn. They think it's only for people looking for jobs, and that's absolutely wrong. LinkedIn is just your online business card. It's where people can go and look things up about you. There's a lot more information, which is one of the reasons I loved Google Plus's bio, because it was like unlimited. Where Twitter, you can only put a teeny tiny little bit.
And Google Plus had the hyperlinks in the bio too, which is great. Yeah.
So LinkedIn has a great bio. You can showcase yourself. So no matter what you're doing, you should definitely have an amazing LinkedIn profile. So you definitely want a great professional photo, and then you want to build up your LinkedIn profile. Facebook is very hard for someone to build a professional brand on now. You can do it, and you definitely will have to have like a budget for social advertising. It doesn't have to be a huge budget. So just figure out, where your target audience is going to be after you figure out all those other things, and then see which platform fits. I mean, yes, people are on Snapchat, but it's harder for businesses on Snapchat.
Right.
The social aspects of all the social platforms, they start out as being just a place where the teens and the hip people go. Right. And then it evolves into like the marketers find it. And then it turns into other things. So things evolve and change, because Facebook was the same way. It was college students and then high school students. And then, way after that, parents and businesses and all those things.
Right.
So it's interesting how it goes. There's not a cut and dry answer that you can say you should definitely do this and this. It's always a personal case thing. And I always tell people, if it's your favorite, like if you really love using it, see if it will work with your business. But the thing that you don't want to do is spend too much time on social that's chatting and not really adding to your bottom line, because that can happen. There's a lot of people that you see that are just online all the time. They're not making money. They're just there, and they're hoping someone's going to spontaneously hire them, because they're so awesome at tweeting. It doesn't really happen. Honestly, going back to my book club, one of the things I was going to mention is, I had the idea to do the Twitter chat, and I was thinking that maybe I could eventually segue into either working with publishers or, getting it sponsored, those kind of things. But it was never able to segue into a paid model.
Oh, wow.
I did work with publishers in that I got books sent to me, so I was getting free books, which is awesome. But they have no budget, because publishing houses just don't have a budget for it.
Yeah.
They did try to start their own chats after they worked with me, but they didn't work very well because they didn't understand how to do it. And, it's not like you could tell authors, charge them, because they don't have the money either. I mean, you don't make money on a book like the second you publish it.
Right.
So, it turned instead of that, it was a great way, and I networked and I met tons of awesome people. So that it worked out in a great way. But sometimes you have an idea and you think that it's going to end up making you money, and it doesn't.
Nope.
And then you have to figure out, okay, well, that's not a good business model then.
Right.
If I want to do it just because I love reading, which I do, and help promote people's books, which I also like to do, but it's a lot of work.
No, it is. And conceptually, that was a great idea for the book club. But like, to your point, publishing houses, they don't have the money,
or they don't want to pay it.
They don't want to pay it. And especially like right now, that's why Guy's book 8 was such a game changer, because, self-publishing has become so popular now, because even on the back end revenue that you can make, the publisher, they can possibly get you more awareness, but you don't make the money through a traditional publisher that you could make with by self-publishing, but you also need the platform to build as well.
But you need a platform either way.
That's
the thing. If you have a good platform, it helps you get a book deal.
Right.
Because they want to see that now. They want to know how you're going to sell the books.
Exactly. Well, see, we need a part 2 of this interview, because I know we got to wrap up, but this is so much great content. Oh my God, you are dropping a lot of that. We didn't even talk about Periscope yet, or live stream. Oh my God.
Nope, we didn't get to live stream.
We so much. But before we wrap up quickly, there are 2 questions that I always ask. Peg, if there was a song that would play every time you enter a room or when you walk down the street that perfectly fits the brand and the story of Peg Fitzpatrick, what song would that be? What would be your own personal theme song?
That is a really good question. I would really pick something super upbeat. The little song that I have on my video trailers is like this little like xylophone-y upbeat song, which is really me. Like I picked it. I love it. That kind of thing is totally me. But for like a song, like an inspirational song, I'm going to say Circle of Life from Lion King. I love Circle of Life. I love the show, and it makes you think about. Are you familiar with that song?
I have a 7-year-old, and I remember. Okay. No, I remember when I was in my teens. So and I have a 7-year-old, so we've seen it. Oh, I definitely love the song. Definitely.
So when you see it on Broadway, it's like really overwhelming and amazing.
Yes. So much not to interrupt you, but no, I lived in New York for 10 years, and actually I took my mother when she visited to see it on Broadway. Yeah, it is beyond magical.
Yeah, I totally cried during that whole song. I cried like 3 times in that show. My kids are like, "You're so crazy," but it really makes you think about the circle of life, because it puts your life in perspective. You are part of the whole bigger thing. Like you are one little drop in the bucket. I think those things are always important to remember. And then there's also like the legacy aspect of like your grandparents, the lessons that they teach you, and then the lessons that you pass on. So that's kind of what I like about that song. I don't know if it exemplifies everything. It's hard for me to think of one that would be everything, because there's a lot of different things. Right. But that's one that I thought of that I like for those reasons, because it puts everything into perspective of how everything works together. And it's not all just about you.
I absolutely, Peg, love that answer more, because obviously it's came from you and it's your theme song, but also it's so applicable to this audience. And I talk a lot about legacy, especially if you're a Gen Xer. Legacy is so key, because whether or not if you're raising kids or taking care of elderly parents, or if you're thinking about everything you're doing now to build a brand, a business to leave on, legacy is so important. So I think that was not only a great theme song for you, but even for just this audience. So I love it. And lastly, Peg, if there was a specific tool or resource, it could be an app, a book, a website that you recommend to Gen Xers, mid-30s, mid-50s, individuals, mid-career leaders who want to build and market their brand, especially through using social media, what would it be?
Ooh, it's so hard. It's always hard for me to pick one. I know,
especially for you, probably.
Okay, a new one that I've been playing with is called Social Champ. It's socialchamp.io.
Okay, .io.
And the thing that's cool about it is it makes it easy to share images with your posts. Okay. But also to repeat your tweets. So if you have something important, like if you're doing this podcast and you want to promote your podcast, you could create one great image and then you could put it in there and have it tweet out 4 times at 4 different, like spread it out.
Oh, so that's cool.
It has a Chrome extension. It's pretty cool. It's new. It's just out there. Not that many people are using it yet, so they're still working on its beta. But it has some really cool features. And what I like best is that the content looks really good when it posts. I'm always like, if you take the time to put a whole lot of effort into what it, like writing the content and your hashtags and you're creating an image, tweeting it once is ridiculous. Like if you create this special image, you have to tweet it more than once. Right. Otherwise, you wasted your time. So if it's good content, one of the things that Rebecca and I do is we make great posts for each other's blog posts and we share it. And so this is a way that you can do it multiple times. So it's a cool thing. So check that out. I don't think too many people have heard about it yet.
Man, I feel special. You're bringing the heat. You're bringing the heat on socialchamp.io. I've never heard of that. Never heard of it. And I'm sure my listeners may not have. And if you have, that's okay. But this is great. Circle of Life, Social Champ. Peg, this was so awesome. Now, I know you have your main website at pegfitzpatrick.com. Is that where everyone can keep up with what you're doing and find out more about you?
I put everything on there.
Everything is on there too. And you blog, you write great articles. Everyone listening, please follow Peg. Okay, if you haven't, then you need to right now. If you want the ins and outs and one-on-ones on social media, great tips and tactics and valuable content, follow her. She's all over the web. She's on video. You will not be disappointed. Peg, I enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for spending time with me.
Thanks for having me.
And our exceptional audience, thank you so much. And we probably have to do a part 2 because I want to get into some more stuff with you. But love having you on. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, so I told you, right? I told you that we were going to go all in on social media for this episode because we had the great, the phenomenal, the exceptional social media expert Peg Fitzpatrick on the show. Such an awesome chat. I mean, so many nuggets and insights and tips, right? Definitely a great conversation. And check out that book, The Art of Social Media, Power Tips for Power Users. You can get it at Amazon. Definitely check it out. It is a great book. I've read it. So many insights and valuable tips on how to master social media, especially in this current age of visual social media, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat. Even though as she mentioned, Snapchat, when she wrote the book, it was before Snapchat became as popular as it is now, but you can still get a lot of value from that book. Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, so many insights. Definitely check it out, and check out her website, her personal website at pegfitzpatrick.com. I truly enjoyed my conversation with her, and I thank her for spending time with us on Gen X Amplified. Now, for the show notes, as always, you can go over to genxamplified.com/032 to get the show notes and the links to the resources that we discuss. So again, I thank you so much for listening in, and also check out our previous episode with the great Marie Forleo at genxamplified.com/031, episode 31. That was another great conversation with a marketing expert. So again, this wraps up our episode, and as always, I appreciate you listening in. Please go out and share this podcast. Keep listening. Make sure you're subscribed. And until next time, all the best to your success. Take care.